This hour is sponsored by BitCentral, efficient media workflows.
This is NAB Show Live.
All right, you're watching NAB Show Live, brought to you by Broadcast Beat. I'm Philip Grossman, and this is actually probably my most favorite panel that I'm going to host all week long. For a couple reasons. One, I'm a geek, love technology. Second, these guys are my friends. So why don't we get started? So we're going to talk today about technology. I'm passionate about film technology. And today we have Dan, these guys are professionals. These guys work in the industry, they know the ins and outs. So we have Dan Duran from Red Digital Cinema, post-production workflow specialist, Matt Duclos, lens knowledge extraordinaire, knows everything there is about cinema lenses, and then Phil Holland, who, you do just about everything, don't you? DP, director, camera tests. If I've got questions, Phil's the person I send an email to. So let's start with, I know this is going to be a loaded question. We'll start with Dan on this one. So Dan, is there this cabal of manufacturers forcing people like forcing people like Phil to use 8K? Or is Phil going to you and going, Red, we need 8K cameras? Who's driving the technology? What do you think, coming from a manufacturer's perspective?
Yeah, no, the demand from capturing more on your digital negative is out there. A lot of productions need, higher resolution, more bit depth, higher frame rates. Just demand is out there, so we're always pushing to, strive to hit that. And with technology, you're going to want to always, as someone who captures footage, create the best image possible. I think that's what we're always trying to give to users.
Yeah. So then I'll go to Phil. Phil, is Red and Ari, are these guys forcing you to use 8K,
no,
12K?
In this specific example, it's me demanding things like 8K and larger format from manufacturers. Mm-hmm. I have been filming in large format VistaVision for a couple years now, and about 70 to 80% of those jobs are actually finishing out in 8K resolution. I am trying to sort of scratch the visual boundaries and create more compelling visuals, both narratively and on these special projects like aerials and things like that. So I'm hungry for those tools. And on a complete side note related to that and what's going on at NAB this year, the optics and the sensors, many manufacturers now are making these larger format sensors. It is a trend that the industry has definitely latched onto, but we're actually getting sort of back to where we were with motion picture film, where we had various formats like Super 16, Super 35, VistaVision, 65 mil, and maybe one day IMAX, who knows. And that's what's exciting about this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's signs everywhere for 8K HDR. That seems to be the trend. And I know I have to, full transparency, I'm a Red shooter. I like Red. I love 8K. And it's because I was a stills guy. Now, and I can capture a 35 megapixel still at the same time. Of course, the front end of every image is a lens. So how is this trend moving to these larger formats, greater bit depth? How's this affecting lens manufacturers? You captured a lot of information, obviously, when we were dealing with film. Are you seeing different trends in how lenses are manufactured or the needs of the cinematographers?
Well, so I think it's really important to specify there's a difference between 8K as a resolution and 8K as, maybe incorrectly terminology, but as a size. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between the resolving capability of a lens and the image circle that it produces. And for the most part, the lenses follow the cameras in terms of what direction they go. Mm-hmm. So lenses resolving 8K, it's kind of marketing hype. Most lenses will resolve 8K, but you can't specify that or you can't say that without specifying the size that 8K sensor is. Mm-hmm. So resolving 8K is not a challenge if your sensor size is normal, Super 35 full frame. Mm-hmm. It's when you really cram them into a smaller space, like 2/3 inch or micro 4/3, then it becomes a challenge.
Yeah, I saw that micro 4/3 8K camera. I mean,
that's a really high pixel density.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what those images look like.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, Dan, why does, and again, I love Red, sorry, I'm a fanboy. Why does Red see itself sort of as a leader in helping DPs and directors tell their stories?
So that's a great question. We're always trying to give the DP, the best tool possible. Check off as many boxes as you can. When it comes to shooting, we don't want to, handcuff a DP. We want to give them the flexibility to shoot, high resolution, high frame rate, be as modular as you can. So with our cameras, we do a lot of modularity. So if, a DP wants to do a handheld rig, that's very easy to throw it on a gimbal, a drone, underwater. So we're trying to stay, as modular as possible, just to give, the creative freedom for the DP to do whatever they want.
Oh, fantastic. So, Phil, you probably have the most experience with the most cameras of any person I know. I read your blog, I see the tests that you do.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing in terms of trends of, I've seen like large format, full frame, Vista Vision, you hear these terminologies. How is that impacting, storytelling?
Well, I think there's a couple of pretty identifiable trends, especially this year at NAB. Every major digital cinema manufacturer, camera manufacturer, is now making a large format sensor. Almost everybody is making a 4K or 4K plus resolution camera, which Red has been doing for a very long time, so the memo's been obviously passed around a little bit. In fact, the only cameras that I see around NAB this year that are 1080p are broadcast related, which makes a lot of sense because that world is still somewhat confined to that ecosystem. I think the interesting thing for me is resolution has been a controversial topic, but really what we're seeing now is people understanding that resolution is part of the medium. We were just talking about lenses that resolve potentially 8K resolution at whatever format size, but it's not even really about how high a lens resolves. Matthew and I have known each other for a while, and Duclos lenses has modified lenses that are 60 years old, 40 years old for me, that I happily use on 8K sensors because the resolution serves as a platform to capture the nuance that that lens has to offer, all the funkiness that I may like.
And they work, right?
Yeah, and that's
I think so.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Mamiya knew about 4K, 6K, 8K 30 years ago.
Yeah, and which is an interesting question. So I've been a stills guy since I was 13.
Yeah.
And cinematography for 20 some odd years, but at what I consider maybe a professional level, not quite your level, but lenses have become more and more important as I've talked to more and more people. What are you seeing sort of the driving trend in lenses? Obviously there's the resolving power, but there's all kinds of different glass formulas as well. What are you seeing in terms of customers asking for in modern cinema lenses?
Resolving power is kind of hitting a plateau. There's only so much we could do designing and manufacturing lenses to increase the resolving power. It's really more of refining other little flaws to make that resolution cleaner all around, reducing aberrations, distortion, all sorts of little things. The trend, especially that we see here, and last year the trend was larger format, full frame. Everyone was sort of acknowledging, yes, it's coming. Okay, we'll do something about it. And then this year, one of the biggest trends I've seen is actually going backwards, detuning. A lot of the manufacturers are taking the feedback from their customers and saying, you don't want a perfect image? Okay, here's a little bit more character in your lens. Here's a lens that's not perfect.
I'm great at not making a perfect image, so that helped me a lot for sure. Are you seeing anything from the mechanical side of lenses? Has any of that changed?
Mechanically, the only thing that there's not a whole lot of innovation there. The mechanics, everything inside the lens is relatively unchanged for quite a while. Wow. Maybe slightly more exotic materials, lighter weight materials, some magnesium here, some titanium there. But the actual mechanical design, not much has changed in cinema lenses.
Okay. Dan, so obviously being a manufacturer like Ari, I don't want to disregard them. They make great cameras as well, and Sony and everybody else, and they probably have some similar issues. What are sort of some of the biggest challenges in regards to these various new technologies, either being driven by the lens manufacturers or by the DPs themselves, that you and Red are attempting to address?
Yeah, no, I would say, when it comes to anything new, there's always, leaving your comfort zone and trying it out for the first time. As a post guy, the first time I opened Resolve, I was intimidated by it. But once I got to use and understand the application, I really saw all the advantages I can get from it. Same thing when it comes to our camera. Once you use the tool, start taking advantage of it, understanding the benefits of high resolution, of raw files, especially of red code. Red code is our file format that makes high resolution capture into really small files, and really understand the benefit of all those combined, you really, start seeing what you can get out of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that sold me on Red, and when I made this transition to sort of the professional grade cinematography camera, was that compression. Shooting RAW in the past was sort of something I didn't want to deal with, but now dealing in RAW, we're getting in 8K and maybe 12K. We're getting much larger, not individual file sizes, but lots and lots of material. Yeah. How do you, on sets and on your projects, Phil, sort of manage these things? Is this becoming more of a concern, storage and transport?
It's interesting. I think there's different pipelines and workflows for every type of project. I love tackling every project uniquely. It seems like every job that I work on has an opportunity to innovate, evolve, become more efficient in some way. A lot of my 8K work, I've been working out of hotel rooms off of a laptop. And because we've had a couple generations of GPU acceleration and more recently some GPU decode stuff come from Nvidia, it is an incredible, powerful ecosystem where I can do so much more with so much less hardware. It is astonishing to me the work I am able to do today on a smaller computer compared to the work I was doing a decade ago at my old studio. It's mind-blowing. I mean, we're talking to the tune of $100 million studio versus, maybe $100,000 worth of equipment or less. Because even a modest laptop, lower tier to mid-tier, can actually process these files. And that's the power behind actually Red Code RAW as a compressed RAW format. It's kind of a lighter data footprint and easier for the systems to handle, and you're also not blowing the bucks on the storage. So I don't view it as a challenge. I view these things as actually tools that have helped empower me take the visuals to a big next step and new level, while kind of working with what the best aspects of the codecs and raw compression that Red Code RAW offers. So, yeah.
So it's maybe a little bit of a loaded question for you, Matt.
Okay.
So things
I'm sorry, I can't talk about that.
Yeah. And again, these guys work on some great projects, and some of them they may not be able to talk about. So if you have to say no comment, I understand, not a problem. So when you get to this level of cinematography, things are expensive. Things are not cheap. And the one thing that I've noticed as I've started to grow my career and start to do more, lenses are very expensive. So maybe a two-part question. One is there a potential for getting this higher quality into a lower cost form, and or what do you tell your customers when they say, $6,500 or $10,000 or $25,000 for a lens? Is it worth it?
That's an excellent question. And really what it comes down to is economy of scale. That's the biggest driving factor. Fujinon's a perfect example. We just sort of hit them with this question the other day with their new Premista zoom. They say this new zoom, it's Premier. If you're familiar with their line, they had their Premier line of primes maybe about 10 years ago. And they sort of shocked everyone. They were sort of the top of the class, $100,000 for a zoom lens. And their new one that's in most ways better than the previous one is half the price. And the big question is why? Is it worse? Is it, what am I losing by only paying half as much? And I think the best answer is scale. Back when they made those previous ones, they planned on making, I'm just guessing, I don't know what their production plans are, but maybe they made 10 to 20 of them a year or something like that. But now with the proliferation of digital cinematography, it's everywhere, so much content everywhere. They can forecast and they can manufacture much larger quantities and bring that cost down. That's, I think, driven a lot of the lower pricing on cinema lenses in general. And it has affected the entire industry of cinema lenses. The prices as a whole have really, the gap has become wider, but you still see better quality products coming down the pipe that are cheaper than they used to be.
Okay. Dan, sort of a similar question on that, Nick, because again, you're a manufacturer Reds are not inexpensive, although I've seen the prices come down a little bit, and you recently sort of, at least from my perspective, normalized the product line so I could understand the difference, a weapon and an epic and a dragon. Do you see that same thing in trying to get more people into cinematography? How does Red sort of deal with that cost and the capabilities of the camera and what the end customers are looking for?
Yeah, no, I think when we first came out with the Red One, that got a high-end cinema camera into people's hands that couldn't afford it at the time, because at the time in 2007, you couldn't really go out and buy a cinema quality camera and start shooting all the time. And it's just progressed since then. Now we have, different options. We have, our high-end flagship Monstro 8K camera. We have the Helium 8K, which is another option, lower price point. And then we have something like the Gemini, which is a 5K camera, still uses our same technology, still uses red code, still has the same body, still can use the same accessories. So our line has different styles of bodies or like same body, different style of sensors and cameras depending on what you're trying to do. So yeah, there has been some change in that.
So Phil, you work on some really cool projects, and I've seen a lot of the work, and I'm always amazed at the quality. Do you have your customers coming to you and sort of demanding, I need you to do this in HDR, I need you to do this in 8K or 16K, or are you finding that you're able to really, with this modern technology, drive the customers in a way to tell their stories differently, better?
I think it's interesting. My customer base ranges from studios to commercial clients, usually technology-forward clients. I think they're often looking to achieve visuals that people haven't even seen before, or maybe not have experienced before. Citing some of the long-form aerial work, being able to do very long takes from the air and presenting them in such a large format and high resolution is really captivating and very immersive when you're actually sitting in front of it and enjoying it. And I tackle every project differently. You're talking about the 16K. Yep. The way of doing 12K and 16K is actually some of the mindset that we have for sometimes finishing out at 4K. I'm actually oversampling to finish out at 8K. And also tapping into a larger sensor size by stitching cameras together, which is sort of a not really explored realm. But I enjoy tinkering and seeing what's out there, and if it sings to me in some ways, and it sort of probably will influence maybe somewhere the industry might go in a year or two. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So Matt, kind of a similar question. Are you seeing your customers come to you and saying, I need X, Y, and Z in a lens design, or are they coming to you more in the what's possible, what can you do, and how do you answer those questions?
Really both of those. It's exactly both of those. It's either someone coming to us saying, okay, fine, full frame's here, I accept it, now I need a lens that covers my full frame camera, or they've met they've sort of plateaued with the technology, the capability of their current lens, they need the next best thing. Or it's someone that says, hey, I've got these lenses, they're sitting around doing nothing, can we customize them, can we tweak them, can we give them some more character? That's been very popular. So it really goes both ways. It's either they want to keep up with the technology and have the newest, greatest, best to meet the demands of their work, or they're happy with that level. Now they want to take it down a notch and maybe do something unique, something different.
Oh. Yeah, I know that I'm always looking for different lenses and trying to build them out and find stuff that does help me tell the story. And as I've progressed in my career doing this, and following people like yourself, that there is a difference in the way and the lens choice and the package and the depth of field that you get. It's really very interesting. So Dan, you guys have customers from all realms, from commercial to you name it, who's who in Hollywood. They've come and asked you for these things. So if you can, and maybe you can't, which element, is it resolution, dynamic range, the codec, the color space, frame rates, which one of these do you see as sort of most important, or that's sort of the top of the list, at least currently right now from some of your customers? And maybe it's a range within the industry.
Yeah, no, definitely. It really comes down to the production and what they're looking for. What check boxes do they want marked off for certain aspects. You know, if I was shooting VFX, I might want, you know, higher resolution, more bit depth, and a cleaner noise floor, because that's something I'm planning to do. Maybe I'm keying it or zooming in or rotoscoping, so I might want something based on those aspects. While, you know, if I'm shooting something like natural history, I might want to take advantage of the dynamic range because I know I won't have any control over the lighting. So, you know, trying to figure out what works best for your production and how to use a camera properly is the most important part.
All right, so we're coming close to the end here, and I want to, because you guys are, you know, great guests and I enjoy your work, I want to give you a chance to sort of plug what you're doing. Phil, what are you working on right now that you think is really cool that you can talk about?
Wow, the rest of my year at the moment is
Careful.
weird. I'm doing some really interesting motion control cinematography coming up that will be ongoing for quite a long time. Some more aerial cinematography will happen later in my year. And in my free time, I'm pitching some content right now to some places that you could probably imagine.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Matt, sort of the same question. What's big, what's going on? What should the people know about Duclos lenses?
Duclos lenses, it's simple. You know, we just do what we do every day in, day out. Sales, service, accessories. There's a couple new accessories we're coming out with, probably around Cine Gear time.
Cinematic.
Cinemods, yes, Phil's a big proponent of Cinemods, customizing lenses. But yeah, it's just the daily grind.
And so what's Red got going on? That you can talk about. I know there's lots of top secret things going on.
My favorite thing that we're showing off right now is the Nvidia GPU Acceleration. So we partnered with Nvidia to move the processing off the CPU onto the GPU to get faster playback. And it's cool that we're able to show off 8K real time just off a Razer laptop, no smoke and mirrors, and playback 8K full res right on a laptop. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, this will be my shout out to, I'm an Apple user. Apple, please allow NVIDIA cards on your machines. You know, again, thank you guys very much. This has been great, and you know, hopefully you can stick around, chat to some of the people in the audience. I can't wait to see some of the work this aerial stuff's going on. Matt, I got some questions for you, and Dan, I'll see you later tonight. So again, thank you. You've been watching NAB Show Live, brought to you by Broadcast Beat. I'm Philip Grossman with Imagine Communications. Thank you all. Thank you guys. Thanks.
I almost went down.
This hour is sponsored by Bit Central, efficient media workflows.